Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Logical Nonsense Podcast. Today we have a very interesting podcast coming up. We have American Dream album review as well as the Insano album review by Kid Cudi and 21 Savage. Both dropped on the same day, which makes my life hell, but a great content day. So I love it. A lot to digest in both albums. I'll be going through all of it. Make sure to stay tuned. First, we're gonna start off with "The American Dream" by 21 Savage. For those of you who don't really understand the message behind this, 21 Savage is not from America, if you did not know. 21 Savage is technically from Britain. He grew up in Atlanta. He talks about that kind of process. Well, kind of. We'll get to that. He doesn't lyrically execute the best, but the thought behind this was that he was going to kind of the process of, growing up as a kid in Atlanta after moving from Britain and all that stuff. So definitely an interesting album concept. The American Dream intro is pretty cool, having like the speech and really setting the tone for the album. Then you jump into All of Me. I think this is a dope beat. The vocals add in an element of nostalgia and kind of eeriness, which you'll see that sort of production throughout the album. And it's cool that they stay consistent and kind of tell a story through the production. I really enjoyed the soundscapes throughout these out throughout this album on. Um, but I think, the beat drops super nice on this. It has a solid chorus. The last verse is a little awkward in terms of flow, but the rest of the song is pretty solidly executed. And, you're starting to feel like you have a good start to this album. Red Rum, it's another nostalgic sounding beat, the European vocals. I don't know if it's Italian or French or whatever it is, but it's kind of cool, like the high pitched kind of orchestra sounding um beat or sample it, and then he flips it. It's just a dope beat, and it's what reminds you of 21 Savage. It's exactly in his element, in his wheelhouse, and it's just very well executed. One of my favorite songs on the album, you know, after the vocals brings in the heavy hitting trap beat, and it's just a banger. Like it just is. He has a slower flow, but it works. At times, it kinda sounds like he's just talking, which isn't my favorite, and I also am not a huge fan of the chorus. I think it's a little repetitive at times, but it's still like, the production carries it so well, and I think this is gonna be a classic 21 Savage song. It sounds like it could be on, Savage Mode too. It's not conceptually, it's kinda cool, I guess, because, Red Rum backwards is murder, which, if you listen to this song, it makes sense. Lyrically, it's not the most sound, there's some bars on this, but it's not, like, telling a story by any means, but it's just kind of a fun song to listen to in terms of the soundscape and the heavy the heavy hitter. So NHIE, solid first verse from Savage. This features Doja, and she brings in kind of a vibe of eeriness and stuff, and it's a little hard to digest. I can't really tell if I like it or not. I think it's a little awkward. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I don't think she added too much to the song. I feel like she has done better in the past on features and just her music in general, but I do think, it was an interesting song to say the least, with the diversity of sounds in the production, but I think this was kind of a miss, especially because Doja is such a big figure, you know, this could have been executed better. Sneaky, I just really don't see the creativity or the diversity in this song. It feels like filler. It's kind of the same topics 21 is continuing to talk about with, sex and money and drugs and kind of the gangster life. But yeah, just not feeling this one. Pop Your Shit featuring Thugger. This one I had an issue with. I feel like, again, kind of a miss on a really cool opportunity to have a cool feature. Thugger, he had a really cool verse on Cudi's album, and I felt like both of them were really unengaging. Their flows were super slow, unengaging. Production is solid on this song, but the song's just underwhelming. The second verse from Thugger is more of what I wanted or expected throughout the album. I felt like 21 could have brought more energy. I think it's, the classic orchestra being brought in is cool. It's what we're expected, but overall, I just think, the production's good, and the song content is just okay, which is a common theme on, I wouldn't say a majority of these songs, but, like, probably a third of them at least. So, not a fan of Pop Your Shit by Thugger and Metro and 21 Savage. Letter to Beretta, this is the more storytelling that I was hoping to see from 21 Savage when he announced this album. I think a lot of people are looking for something different from 21. We're so used to seeing exactly what we expect from 21, and it's songs like these where we're like, "Okay, here's some diversity," but this is one song. I think it's cool, I like the lyrical switch up, giving thanks to his brother and, not necessarily like his brother, but probably just a friend, and then he, asks for forgiveness from the Lord, he gives insight on his childhood, which, like I said, seems to be the theme of the album, and, he does a good job of bringing in his vulnerable self, and storytelling, and I thought it was cool to see that perspective. I would have liked to seen it more. This isn't necessarily like your banger or whatever, but I think it helps give guidance to the album. It's a necessary song on the album. Going to Dangerous featuring Little Dirk. It's a solid song, very ferocious song. I think a lot of people will like Dirk's verse. I personally was just alright with it. It's definitely a gangster rap style song with a heavy trap beat, and, the looped vocal in the background, just like 21 Likes. I don't think it's that special of a song, but I wouldn't be mad if somebody was like, "Oh, I really like this song." I think it's definitely like a kind of pump up song, if you will. Going to Nina featuring Travis Scott and Metro Boomin. I really enjoy this song. I think Travis brings a lot to the table on this song. Um, there's this building beat and there's beat switches and beat drops, and it's just like a super dope ass verse from Travis. He has, flow fluctuations and flow switch ups, and his energy is just, you know, perfectly matched on this higher paced beat. The production, like I said, it's incredibly layered, super crazy, and I think it's brought together with all the right elements. The Virgil line by 21 is pretty freaking hard. I'll give him that. And I think 21 brings his best game to this song. He also has switch up in his flows, and I think he brings some hard bars. Probably my favorite song on the album. So good job on this song. See the Real, more melodic 21 Savage, more poppy, I would say, but it doesn't feel too off from the rest of the production still. Like it definitely fits. It's interesting because it's like you can hear the Drake influence within this song. I kind of mess with it. It does get a little I wasn't a huge fan of the last verse when we go, no, no, bo, flow, flow, po, po. Like that ending was just it was okay. Like, it wasn't my favorite. So, going to Prove It featuring Summer Walker. Summer Walker has had a lot of great projects in the R&B game, and I think she's really on the rise, so great for him to bring her in. More of a love song, it's kinda cool, vocals in the background, scream that, the chemistry is fine on this song. I just don't think this is necessarily a song for me. I wasn't personally a fan of it, but I think the execution is fine. For a love song, I feel like it was good. It wasn't anything too crazy. I don't mind it though. Shoulda Worn a Bonnet featuring Brent Faiyaz. Brent brings some great things to the table. I think he kind of overshadows 21 Savage in this song. Kind of telling, girl to run away from them, and it's an interesting production choice. There's a lot and I mean a lot to grasp on the production, very heavy and beat switches, but, um, the chipmunk vocals in the back, I think are a little too much, put put it over the top, because you can barely hear 21. I think Brent is fine on this, but 21 you can barely hear, and I think the Brent feature is fire, like I said, but, I think this is a hit sounding single for sure. We'll see how it does and how it ages as well. Just Like Me featuring Burna Boy, I also really love this song. It's the best way to describe it is groovy. I know that might be a cringe word, but it just is. You know, it's it's Burna Boy. He's an island guy having a fun time. Very fun song. I love this. I love this direction. Um, that Metro call out always gonna get me excited, and brings in the trap drums. I just think this song is a banger and one that I'm gonna be bumping for a while, especially going into the summertime. I know we're in January, but I'll be bumping this in July. Classic 21 verse, and it's not boring, which is nice. The chemistry between those two is unexpectedly dope, and I think the beat switch up is also really, really clean. So good job on this song. Going to Red Sky. I know a lot of people like this song. It's definitely an intriguing song, bringing in the rock sample, and it brings kind of this heavy hitting feel to it. I like it. I think it's an intriguing soundscape, but it's not like one of my favorite songs. Like I know some people like, so I think people should check that out though. Dark Days. It's a slower song. It's more lyrical outro, which I appreciate in the storytelling. Mariah the Scientist is an interesting choice of feature. She brings in pretty vocals, and I think she plays well into the theme of the album and the song. But Dark Days, good outro. Finally, going to our logic method of rating, we'll start off with lyrics. As I mentioned before, many of the songs had similar themes in this, and it wasn't the theme of the album, which is my biggest complaint. Most of it talking about, you know, gang related stuff, sex related stuff, money, sometimes drugs brought in. There are some songs such as like Letter to My Brother or, Dark Days, Prove It, where they bring in cool introspective into, love or his childhood. Um, but overall, like I said, it's the same things we're talking about every time. And for that, I'm lyrically not inclined. If I'm looking for something lyrical, if I'm looking for something that's gonna tell a story, I'm not looking to this album. This is just not it. But there's definitely, there's some cool bars on here, that, make it a cohesive whole. But the lyrics are just okay. They're just kind of below average. And for that, I'm gonna rate it a 5.2 out of 10, which is honestly higher than I think some people would rate it. But those 3 songs there and some other lines have improved it to 5.2 for me. On point production, I love the soundscape in that was told in this album. I think it told the story. It really spoke volumes, and I think the production carried a lot of the songs. Metro added a lot of unique beats that we're not used to him challenging himself on, and I liked it. I also love the nostalgic, classic, eerie mess within the production. It was focused, it was consistent, it brought loops, it brought chopped beats. It was really, really cool, but it was consistent, like I said, but it wasn't repetitive. And a song like I Should Have Worn a Bonnet is where, it's super, super layered, but it's too crowded, I think, a little bit. I enjoyed it, but I definitely see people who could say that's, too crowded. Um, but I think, there's some improvement, there's some for improvement, but it's one of the best starts to good production on the year. I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10, which is really high on my rating. Glorious flows. 21 struggled bad in this area. I think, oftentimes it felt like he didn't challenge himself at all. He tried to bring in melodic flows, which were okay executed, but most of the time it was kind of a slower flow, classic 21 Savage flow that we're used to. And, you know, they sound very similar, and when you sound very similar, you're not challenging yourself. I can't give you a good rating for flows. I just think he needs to improve on this. He needs to go back to the drawing board, figure out, "Dude, I need to speed up. I need to slow down. I need," I just want more flow fluctuations, flow experimentations, and I think this will go up, but on this album, I got 4.8 out of 10, which is really low. Immediate hits, I think the songs that are great will be recognized as so, by the mainstream market, and I think there's even some potential for some of the songs I don't like to blow up, but I definitely think, 3 to 4 songs will do really well on this album, and for immediate hits, I have them at a 7.8 out of 10 because I think it was solid work on that end. Content matter. From a fan perspective, looking at this album, it's about exactly what you would expect from a 21 Savage album. It's nothing that made me shocked or like, wow, 21 just did that. But, there's still some elements of surprise. I think the soundscapes were cool to listen to. I think there's some bangers on this. I think there's some bars that make you know, your face scrunch a little bit. There's a few bangers in a 15-song track list, and I just think it won't be long before people are gonna kinda get tired of 21 Savage. A lot of people have given him a lot of praise for all of his features. I think it's getting kind of old. Like, we know what to expect, exactly what to expect, and I don't necessarily know if that's, like, exactly what I want every time. Like, I want to be surprised from time to time, and I want to see the different stuff. So, but the production told the story the best, of the album, and I think, overall, I understood where he was attempting to go. Content matter, I think it was above average. I'll go 7.3 out of 10 on here. And for my overall score on this album, I have a 6.82 out of 10. Make sure to listen to it. Don't just listen to me. Make sure to listen to it. Form your own opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments. Insano by Kid Cudi. Alright, often I have these dreams with by or featuring DJ Drama features throughout pretty much the whole album, brings in which I really do like how often DJ Drama has been brought into albums. I think he brings in a cool element. He's kind of a cool narrator in a weird way. So I love that. It's cool layered production to start out the album. It's kind of an unexpected collaboration between DJ Drama and Kid Cudi, in my opinion, but I like it, and I think, this is a solid song. Cudi's verses, going kinda hard. He's bringing in more of the rap, which I didn't expect, honestly, going into this album, how much rapping Kid Cudi did. We're so used to seeing the more melodic Cudi, and he did a lot of rapping, which we'll get to. Keep Bouncing, kind of a strange song in my opinion. There's a lot to digest. I had to listen to this one, I think 2 or 3 times. Um, the voice fluctuations are interesting. It's a futuristic kind of electronic beat, which is very consistent throughout. You'll see that production throughout. But, the rapping, the singing, the talking, and then there's somewhat yelling in the background. Definitely feels like it relates back to the theme of an album of, Insano, kinda speaks for itself, mental issues, if you will. But it's an interesting song, man. I don't really know how to grasp it. I wasn't a fan of it. Um, Get Off Me featuring Travis and DJ Drama. It's a different sounding Cudi verse, and I kinda like it. It's a more ferocious. He's got the low tone singing in there, which we've heard in the past at times. I think he brings it a little more often than I would have liked in this album. And then Travis' first song is very auto-tuney, very what I'm used to hearing from him, not his latest stuff, and I'm not a fan of that. Then he starts rapping, and his rapping it's alright, it's nothing too special. I actually like Cudi's contributions in this song more. I think they're more dynamic, but the way they go back and forth is kind of interesting. Most Saint Dennis, another futuristic electronic sounding song. I think this isn't my favorite song. I think the whispered chorus is a little awkward sounding. I think, sure there is diversity in flows, but I didn't necessarily love the flows that he brought in. Kind of the lower tone stuff, just yeah. Then going to "Wow" featuring ASAP Rocky. The first verse from Kid Cudi is dope as fuck. I think his flow switch ups and voice fluctuations are super engaging. They're super fun throughout the song. I think this song in general is a fun song. Um, kind of the theme of, not caring too much and just living life is cool. I think the ASAP verse is solid. It's cool chemistry, between those 2, which, I haven't really thought about these 2 collaborating, and I wish we had more ASAP and Cudi songs, to be honest. I think this was cool. I think the chorus grows on me. At first I wasn't a huge fan of it, but it definitely grows on me, and the drums coming in at the end add another cool layer to the song. Definitely a hit for me on this. Electro Wave, it's a groovier beat. It has, the whistles or the flute-like instruments in the back, but it also has that electronic feel again, kind of hints the name of the song. It's a fun song. It has cool melodies, from Kid Cudi. It's kind of a feel-good song. The "Na could get repetitive for some people. I could see that. I don't know. It was a solid song. Tale of a Night, much more heavy trap beat than the rest of the album. It's ferocious, but I don't know if this is his lane. I really don't. Like, I respect him for not giving a fuck and trying it, but, he executes this experiment better than most, but it just kinda comes off awkward. Cud Life, I enjoyed this song. Dynamic production, has classic low tone flow that we're used to hearing with his distorted chorus voice. He has melodies, flow switch ups throughout. Usually not a fan of this type of Cudi, but he executes it better on this song than some of the other songs he experiments this with. There is a lot to digest in terms of soundscape, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And then we go into Too Damn High. I think a lot of people are gonna like this song. It wasn't my liking. I think, futuristic electronic beat again, but it's that classic auto-tune Yachty, like from way back when, and I'm definitely not a fan of it. I just think it just sounds really awkward and really poorly executed. Like he's the only one that can kind of get away with it. Cuddy part is solid. I think his vocals sound great, but Yachty's part I really don't like. Get You Gone, fast beat, and he brings in that lower tone flow again, and I'm not really the greatest fan of it. I think the vocals are brought in beautifully, but again, that lower flow that he keeps bringing in throughout, it sounds too awkward to me. I don't know what it is. He does bring in the sped up flow part of the song, which is a cool touch, and I think this is kind of a head bopper when he does that. That part's well executed, and it's definitely a much more exotic beat, but overall, it's cool. If it was longer, I could see it getting repetitive. At the Party was not a fan of this song. There's a lot of layers, and he brings in kind of the synth sound, and it sounds clean, but it's a very underwhelming verse from Cuddy, and it's way too long. I think the high pitch chorus from Pharrell, it grows on me, but it's still like it could be way better from Pharrell. We've seen way better from Pharrell, and the same goes for Travis. It's just like mid for what we know from Travis and what he can do. It's just mid. So, Mr. Kula, it's a solid ass flow. He's got solid rapping ability in this. It's a faster beat and he matches the energy well. And there's a subtle beat switch, but it's just kind of a filler song again. So, Freshy, I think this has a funny intro. It's a unique flow to the rest of the album, but this song is just kind of mediocre. Again, it feels kind of like filler. On a 21 song album, though, you're gonna get songs like Mr. Coola and Freshy. Tortured. This is the Cuddy we're used to. Soft instrument on a trap beat. It's dope. And then he has the humming, um, slower sounding voice from Cuddy. It's that slow melody, melodic flow from Cuddy that I love, and it reminds me of something that could be on Man on the Moon, project, and, it's more melancholy, it's a classic Cuddy sad song, but I love it, and it talks, about the voices in his head, it's very vulnerable, and it's just a well executed song by Cuddy, and I wish more of the album was like this because I think with the title of Insano, honestly, I think, like, bringing in more elements of this mixed in with his higher pace flows or low tone flows, or however he wants to execute it, would have been great if we had more songs like Tortured. I realized I haven't been showing you. We're down here now. X and Cud. X brought in a interesting dynamic. He sounds great on the piano beat. I think the vocals sound solid from both, and the way they go back and forth is really cool. Their energies matches really well. I usually am not a fan of X's posthumous stuff, but this was actually very solid and well executed. I think there could be some tweaks through the song, but overall it was great. 7 featuring Lil Wayne, distorted echoed voice again by Cudi, and he never really transitions out of that distorted echoed melodic voice, but I don't know, like, it's just it kind of is mediocre from Cudi, and honestly, I felt like it was an underwhelming verse by Wayne too. I think he has the better verse, but it's just like this back in the day would have been crazy to hear about, and now it's just like, it's alright, you know? Funky Wizard Smoke, production feels much more poppy, it's kind of a funner song. It's definitely funky, but, it's got the loops in the back, it's got the distorted high-pitched vocals in the back, and it's a unique song to its own realm. It feels more positive than some of the other songs. It's not my personal choice, but it's definitely a cool song. Rager Boys, I'm a huge fan of. I think the Humming to Begin is just a telltale sign that it's gonna be a banger, and, it's got more intense instruments in the beat, and it kinda creates a sense of tension, but I like it. I think Cudi gets, the better verse out of Thugger, than 21 Savage did because, like, this just slaps. Both their verses when, they have their own verse and first, and then they go back and forth. It's just cool. It's a really cool. So, hope to see more from Thugger like this and more like from Cudi like this. Portia Topless, I mean, it doesn't even sound like Cudi in this song, like, this was just very computer edited sounding voice, it sounded very futuristic, I did not like this song. Blue Sky, got, like, an '80s to '90s feel, with the poppiness, it's kind of really cool actually to listen to, um, brings the melodic Cudi again, and it's kind of got, like, this psychedelic feel to it. I really like how this song was executed, it's a feel-good song, it's got cool layers to discover, definitely recommend this one. Hit the Streets of My Nikes, it's a great, great outro, I think it's got a catchy chorus, very enjoyable to listen, head bopper, and, it's a heavy pace, like I said, high paced trap beat, and I just think it was a great way to end the album. Going to our logic method of rating lyrics. I wouldn't say it's his most lyrically sound project, but there are, you know, songs like Tortured, X and Cud, and Rager Boys that have solid lyrics and bars. Overall, it's not great in the realm of lyrics, but it's better than some. Uh, I don't know, it's average at best. I'm gonna go 5.7 out of 10 here. On point production, I think the production was interesting to say the least. Felt like electronic, futuristic sounding beat a lot of the times, and it came into play. He tried something unique, and it is a unique soundscape. For this, I think it was solidly executed. It could have gone really poorly, but I think he brought the right producers to make this album because I think this could go really poorly. I'm not saying like this is the best production I've ever heard, but I definitely think it was very diverse and unique. I don't know if it totally worked, but it is what it is. It's not my favorite production choices, but they're still very, very solid. I'll go 7.9 out of 10. Glorious flows, the low tone flows to melodies, to the fast rapping. He brought diversity, which is cool. You don't always see that from artists. I'm not the biggest fan of his low tone flows, which brings him down a little bit. I think they sound way too awkward and kind of unsettling. but just because, like, they're hard to vibe with, like, I don't know. But he was able to bring in some cool flows on this album, and I think his strongest flow is when he's able to fluctuate and bring in those melodies like I've talked about. It's better than most still. I'm gonna give him a 7 out of 10 on Glorious Flows. Immediate Hits, personally not a fan of Too Damn High or At the Party, but I could see the mainstream crowd liking these. I also think the Thugger song Rager Boys and Wow with ASAP, I hope those become hits because I enjoyed those songs. Is a world where we see Tortured and X and Cud become hits, and well perceived, but we will see how it ages with the mainstream audience. Now, there's nothing, like, really popping out to me as, like, a instant, um, Cuddy classic, so I'm gonna go 7 out of 10 on this one as well. Content matter, lyrics were average, production was experimental, flows were kind of all over the place, but in sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. This album, face value, it's very average to good to me, and I think, this isn't a bad album, but I would recommend it to others just for, you know, soundscapes, experimentation, like, it's interesting for sure, like, I had to listen to a few songs multiple times just to get a grasp on my feelings towards it. Um this isn't a bad album at all. So I hope, we see better work from Cuddy just because I think he has done better work in the past on the Man of the Moon projects. So content matter, I'm gonna give a 6.5 out of 10. And that averages out to an album score of 6.8 out of 10. Which is hilarious. It's actually 6.82. I swear to God, I unintentionally have the exact same average score. Don't know how that happened, but they have the exact same average score for the album. And honestly, looking at both of them, I would say that kind of adds up. 21 Savage's album, I think the production carries it, and I think the lyrics and flow bring it down. And then if you look at Cuddy's album, nothing really brings it down a whole lot. It's just kind of average at best. Some areas he's above average, like I said, like, you know, on point production, it was, 7.9 out of 10. That's a little above average. And then lows were a little above average, hits were a little above average, so it makes sense that they're at the same level. I don't know if I can tell you which one's better. It makes sense. I think the scores really speak for themselves, so make sure to listen to Insano, make sure to listen to American Dream. Tell me which one you think is better. I don't have an opinion yet, so we will see how they both age and go from there. With that being said, that is the end of the podcast. And make sure to tune in to episode 50 this Wednesday, January 17th, and then Thursday, January 18th. First part, top 50 sports moments from 2000s on. Second part, top 50 hip hop artists from 2010s on. Gonna be a banger, live streamed on YouTube. Make sure to tune in.